Okay, I want to show you how you can use image editors like Photopea and Photoshop to make improvements to images that you may have. I scanned this book in so that we could use it in one of the My Favorite Things videos, and I deliberately scanned a little bit more than necessary so I can show you the crop tool and some other tools that are going to make some improvements. Now I do have this open in Photoshop already. When I scanned it, I had to scan it in at 600 dots per inch in order to get the resolution that we need. There's another setting on the scanner that de-screens. When you have fine art like this, so this was painted and then I scanned it, you can see the pattern that's in here. You may not notice it on the book unless you look at it under a magnifying glass, but I did set the de-screening on, and you should be able to see now that it does look a little bit better. So this is the one that I'm going to be editing, but I'm going to start off by doing it with our free version here. So first I'm going to crop. This is the crop tool. You can see that I've got some edges here that I can bring in, and they're at the bottom, just depending on exactly where that was. Now I double clicked inside. If you want to crop and click the little check mark, that also does the same thing. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit and take a look at some of the color here. It doesn't look too bad, looks kind of like what the book cover does, but there is, let me go ahead and cancel that crop, one major thing that we do to improve these images, because they weren't created digitally. If you take a picture with a camera, whether on your phone or a professional camera, or you scan it in, those devices are not as good as our eyes. So we are going to make the blacks that are supposed to be in here blacker and make the white parts whiter using something called levels. So we're going to go to layer right here and say we want a new adjustment layer. What this does is it adds a filter on top of this background layer here so that if we decide that we want to make adjustments to it later, we can. It's not destroying the pixels that are here. So watch what happens here. New adjustment layer for the levels. It's going to give us essentially a bar graph. So think of these being the black pixels up through lighter and lighter to the mid gray and then whiter and whiter, and this is perfect white. And you can see that there are no pixels in this range. All of the pixels are here in the middle. So we know that there are parts of this image that really should be black. So if we drag this black point in to right where the graph starts to go up, we've lost some of the detail down in here, but it wasn't important detail. There really wasn't anything in there that we are now hiding by doing that. So the general rule of thumb is bring that in to where the main part of the graph starts to go up, and do the same for the other side. Now it is possible to then take this midpoint, and I like to just wiggle it back and forth, and then not looking at the graph, just looking at the image, try and find a point where it looks pretty good. Let me zoom out here so we can see more of it, so we can see some of the yellows as well. And I'm going to say OK. But by doing that, I can now turn that layer off and back on again. So if you can see how the colors are improved, how this layer of gray that we were kind of seeing through it is now gone. So that is something that some of your pictures could really benefit from. It's a very simple adjustment. There's another one that you might be interested in, layer, new adjustment layer, and it's the Vibrance. So if you want to make your colors a little bit brighter or dimmer, you can also tone it down or bring this value up. Now it's pretty easy to go too far, but in this case it's a pretty monochromatic picture, so we can go up pretty high and we can check out like before and after. It's a subtle difference, but we do get a little more color in here and the yellow is even brighter. And this is called saturation. This is actual color levels. If you go all the way, you get a black and white image. Not the best way to make a black and white image. If you go all the way up, it gets kind of over the top. Most images, they'll go kind of crazy. This one, it actually just looks very colorful, but that is too much. So I would just, again, looking at the image only, try and find a part where that seems to look okay. So I'm going to click and drag. That's our before. and this is our after. So you would want to save this as a Photoshop file, and it will remain, these layers will remain. So you can even go back after the fact, open it back up, say, you know what, you overdid it with the saturation. Let's pull that back a little bit. And you just come and bring the saturation to a little bit less and save it again. So that is one of the ways of improving this image quite a bit.